He lived alone for years, until one day, 10 stray dragons asked for shelter in his lunar station. The Lunar Station outpost. 9 wasn't much more than a half-buried dome, a greenhouse bay, and a scattering of maintenance tunnels carved into the ice. It sat on the far side of Titan's moon Dravos, where the sunlight was faint and the days were long enough to make a man forget time existed. Commander Elias Var had lived there alone for 7 years. 7 years since the last shuttle had come. 7 years since the mining corporation had shut down operations. 7 years since he'd volunteered to maintain essential systems, because he couldn't stand the noise of cities anymore. He'd made peace with the silence, the hum of air recyclers, the faint hiss of water lines, the occasional groan of the dome shifting against the ice. So when the first alarm went off that night, he almost ignored it. The station's perimeter sensors sometimes got twitchy during geomagnetic storms. But the second alarm, lower, heavier, was the motion detector. Something large was moving across the frozen plain toward him. Elias pulled on his pressure suit and climbed to the observation deck. Through the thin atmosphere, under the cold blue glow of Dravos' distant sun, he saw them. Shapes, big shapes. They moved in a slow, ragged line, 10 of them. Long bodies, wings tucked against their sides, tails dragging in the snow. Their hides caught the faint light and gleamed like shards of crystal, pale silver, deep emerald, even one with a shimmer of midnight blue. Dragons, not the fire-breathing myths of old Earth, but Aeroti, native to the high-pressure upper skies of Dravos. He'd seen them only once before, far overhead, riding the planet's great storms like ships on an ocean. They weren't supposed to survive long on the surface. And yet, here they were, walking toward a station. His hand hovered over the lock controls. The lead dragon, a massive silver female, stopped just outside the airlock, folding her wings. Her head lowered until her eyes, glowing faint gold, met us through the glass. She didn't snarl, didn't hiss. She just waited. Elias opened the outer channel, his voice rough from disuse. You lost or something? A low, resonant sound rolled from her chest. Not words, but not meaningless either. A second dragon, smaller and pale green, stepped forward, pressing its snout to the outer glass. Frost bloomed where its breath touched. That was when Elias saw it. The tremor in their limbs, the frost rimming their wing edges. They were freezing. The Aeroti were storm dwellers. They lived in constant warm-up drafts high above the clouds. Down here, the cold was killing them. His rational mind screamed at him. They're predators. They could tear the dome apart. But his hands moved anyway. He cycled the lock, vented the chamber, and opened the outer gate. One by one, they came inside, crowding into the maintenance bay. Their claws clicked against the metal floor. The air filled with the smell of ozone and something faintly like cinnamon. The silver matriarch moved past him, careful not to knock him over, and crouched in the far corner. The smallest, a bronze-scaled juvenile, collapsed almost immediately, curling into itself with a pitiful, trilling sound. Elias cursed under his breath, stripping off his gloves. All right, you stay calm. No one eats anyone, and we might just get through the night. He cranked up the heat in the bay, dragged over emergency thermal blankets from storage, and even opened the greenhouse vents to pump warmer air through. The dragon settled in a loose circle, wings half spread to catch the warmth. Hours passed. The bronze juvenile stirred, lifting its head to look at him with bright, curious eyes. It let out a questioning chirp. Elias crouched and very slowly held out his hand. The dragon sniffed, then pressed its snout against his palm. The matriarch watched, her golden eyes unreadable. Then, to his shock, she lowered her head all the way to the floor in front of him. A bow. It wasn't submission. It was acknowledgement. From that night on, they stayed. They helped him in ways he never expected, hauling ice on the far ridges, clearing snowdrift from solar rays, even flying out to retrieve drop supply crates from automated cargo drones. And in return, Elias kept the bay warm, repaired torn wing membranes, and learned to grow foods they could eat. The silence of Outpost 9 was gone. It had been replaced by the low rumble of ROT breathing at night, the flap of wings during morning flights, and the occasional impatient claw tap on the deck when he was late with breakfast. He'd come to Dravos to live alone. But in the coldest corner of the moon, 10 dragons had walked into his life and turned it into something warmer than he'd ever known.